Every camera lies except when it doesn't. On a film set, every inch of light is bent into place. Every beam is justified, every shadow mapped. There's no room for accident, or at least there shouldn't be. But every now and then, something slips in. Something the camera records, but no one remembers seeing. Across decades of filmmaking, a strange pattern emerges. Movies where a shadow appears, clearly and unmistakably, yet with no person to cast it. No source of light to justify it, no explanation in the production notes, and no willingness from anyone involved to talk about it. Some called them glitches, some said they were tricks of exposure or strange reflections, but in nearly every case, someone on set swore there was nothing there. What do you make of a figure that crosses the frame, leaves a shape on the wall, lingers just long enough to unsettle only to vanish completely when the shot is done? What casts a shadow without ever being seen? Today, we're peeling back the frame, one film at a time. These are 15 moments when cinema recorded something it was never supposed to see. They come from horror, from drama, even from science fiction. But they all share one thing in common. A shadow appears unexplained, undocumented, and undeniable. You've probably seen some of these movies. You may have missed these details, but they didn't miss the film. So, before we begin, ask yourself one question. If no one was standing there, what burned itself into the negative? Hasson, The Exorcist, 1973. Among the fires, injuries, and endless rumors that circle The Exorcist, there's one piece of evidence that doesn't rely on myth. It's in the film itself. A hallway shot, empty. The camera floats toward Regan's bedroom, the walls tight with silence. Then, passing along the floor, a shadow crosses left to right. Just one step, just one movement. No actor is visible. The set was confirmed closed. The light is steady directional. There is no logical source for the shape. William Friedkin once said, "The film gave back more than we put in." He never clarified what he meant. An editor claimed the team tried removing the shadow for a cleaner Blu-ray. The file glitched, the footage distorted. They restored the original and left it. That moment is untouched in every release, still unexplained. If evil needed proof, did the camera catch it just once when no one else was looking? #2, Rosemary's Baby, 1968. There's a quiet shot in Rosemary's Baby that doesn't call attention to itself until you notice what's moving that shouldn't be. Rosemary approaches a stairwell late at night. Her shadow falls behind her in a soft arc, but down below, on the first landing, another shape begins to rise. It's humanoid. It moves against the lighting, and it stops just before being seen. There were no actors placed there. The stairwell was marked closed on the call sheet. The light source would have prevented any upward shadow from forming. The shape doesn't return in later scenes. It doesn't resolve, but it's there just long enough to register, too quick to identify. A fan once sent a letter to Mia Farrow asking who the person was at the bottom of the stairs. The letter was reportedly never answered. If a shadow climbs to meet you, was it already there, waiting? #3, Eyes Wide Shut, 1999. Stanley Kubrick was obsessed with visual clarity. Every reflection accounted for, every silhouette planned, which is why the shadow in Eyes Wide Shut feels like a deliberate interruption, except no one ever claimed responsibility. Tom Cruise walks through a golden-lit hallway on his way to something secret. The camera tracks him in profile. The space is symmetrical. His shadow follows closely. Then, briefly, another shape enters the edge of frame behind him, broader, slower, its gait not aligned. Not his, not anyone's. There was no secondary character. The production used minimal crew in that sequence. The walls were closed, the lighting controlled. An assistant editor once claimed Kubrick saw the shadow in post. He rewound the tape, played it again, then said, "Let it stay." It's never mentioned in the commentary, never explained in any production material, but it's burned into the film. Not just a shadow, an interruption, a presence. What happens when a director lets something stay in the frame, even if it wasn't his? #4, Hereditary, 2018. In Hereditary, horror lives in the quiet corners, the frames that hold too long, the dark that stays too still. But in one scene, something is hiding in plain sight. The camera glides slowly through the family's living room, lights dim, shadows soft. As the frame moves toward the hallway, a shape stands in the corner, tall, undefined, head low. It doesn't shift, it doesn't breathe. No one mentions it. It's not in the script. Ari Aster later answered a fan question with just 5 words. "That one, we didn't stage it." Digital breakdowns showed no composite, no layer, just darkness forming the outline of a body where there should have been empty wall. It's not a jump scare. It doesn't draw attention, but it's there, silent, present. How long can something stand still before we agree it's not supposed to be there? Hash 5. Solaris 1972. In Solaris, ghosts come not to haunt, but to return, to fill absence with memory, to blur past with present. But Tarkovsky may have filmed a ghost he didn't write. During a slow pan through the space station's sterile corridor, a man walks past a reflective steel surface. His image flickers, distorted by metal. And behind him, another reflection appears off-timing by half a second. It doesn't match the movement. It doesn't follow him. It pauses. There was no other character. No rear projection, no crew visible in adjacent shots. Archivists confirm the scene was captured in camera. No overlays, no optical tricks. In fact, several reels show a strange inconsistency in that shot, like a skip in memory, not film. Tarkovsky's notes describe the moment only once. In a margin, mirrors know things we forget. Can a reflection remember something the character has tried to bury? 6. Ringu, neilantinenteleftinelam. Sadako haunts through tape, but Ringu holds a moment even she didn't intend. Inside a wooden cabin, the protagonist Reiko paces slowly, searching for clues. Everything is still, the frame is wide, static, and on the back wall, high near the ceiling, a dark figure lingers. It's not clearly shaped, but it's unmistakably human. It doesn't move, it doesn't flicker, it simply waits. No other actor is in the scene, no props tall enough to cast the shadow. Lighting is minimal, just enough to illuminate Reiko's steps. The form on the wall? It's out of place, and eerily still. In interviews, the cinematographer vaguely mentioned uncontrolled reflections. But fans who dissected the moment discovered something stranger. In one enhanced frame, the shadow appears to be facing the camera, watching. Not her, you. The remastered editions kept the scene untouched. No cleanup, no commentary. If the curse was supposed to stay inside the tape, who stepped outside of it? Septine, alien elkudbe. Vienas tūkstantis devyni šimtai devyniasdešimt du. In a film riddled with compromises, Alien Cubed still delivers moments of unfiltered unease. But one scene, quiet, brief, forgotten, may hold its most enduring mystery. In a dim corridor, Ripley walks past a grated gate. Her figure warps slightly as light spills through metal bars. Then, behind her, another silhouette leans into frame, broad at the shoulders, subtly hunched. It pauses at the light's edge and stops. Not retreating, not advancing, just holding there. The script doesn't call for anyone else. No background extras, no implied presence. Later interviews suggest the moment wasn't part of the shooting plan. "We noticed it in post," said one assistant editor. "It didn't match anyone on set, but it didn't break continuity, so we left it in." Fincher, already disillusioned with the project, never addressed it. But fans have returned to that still frame for years, pointing to one thing. The outline resembles a man, but no one in that scene should be there. Not human, not xenomorph, just something in between. What if the film's most honest shadow wasn't scripted at all? Hashite, Picnic at Hanging Rock, 1975. There is something too perfect about the way Picnic at Hanging Rock captures light like a dream that refuses to fully wake. And in one radiant shot, light refuses to behave. As the girls ascend the rock, one by one, their shadows spill over the stone beneath them. All except one. She walks in full Sunday. Her feet disturb the dust. Her form is clear, but the ground beneath her remains blank, untouched, as if rejecting her presence. The scene was filmed in natural light. The camera didn't move. No visual effects were used. And yet, frame by frame, her absence from the stone is absolute. Cinematographer Russell Boyd once hinted, "We tried to fix it, but there was nothing to correct." Viewers have offered dozens of theories, a light anomaly, a metaphor for vanishing. But none can explain how a person could appear so solid and leave no trace behind. If a body leaves no shadow, was it ever really there? #9, Don't Look Now, 1973. Grief stalks every corner of Don't Look Now. Venice becomes a maze of loss, its alleys folding in on themselves like unfinished memories. And in one shot, that grief seems to gain a form. As Donald Sutherland's character chases a red-coated figure through a narrow stone corridor, his shadow stretches long beside him. But just after he turns a corner, a second shadow splits away from his path. It flickers across the wall, taller, faster, moving in a completely different direction. Lighting documentation lists a single practical lamp at the alley entrance. No crew stood behind the camera. No alternate angles were shot. The moment appears in every version of the film. Some fans claim it's a trick, two shadows cast by a single figure. But the geometry doesn't work. The second shape reacts too early. and as Sutherland slows, that other form seems to continue, almost impatient to disappear. A crew member once said, "That alley had a strange echo, like footsteps doubled. When sorrow moves fast enough, can it outrun the person it belongs to?" Hasson 0, The Blair Witch Project, 1999. Found footage is messy, that's its power. But one stray shot in the Blair Witch Project may have captured more than just panic and trees. In a take that didn't make the theatrical cut but later surfaced in special features, the camera is dropped during a night run. It lands crooked, catching a slice of forest floor. For a moment, all is still. Then, stretching across the leaves, a shadow drifts by. There's no noise, no footsteps, no actor scheduled to move through the shot. The light is limited to the flashlight on the ground, too low to cast a figure that tall, that fluid. The directors were asked about the moment during a commentary track. They laughed, then said, "That was unexpected. Nothing more." The raw footage still exists. Analysts have slowed it frame by frame. What they found, the shadow curves slightly at the top, like a figure wearing something. But no cast member wore that costume. No crew member was present. Is it possible for the woods to cast their own witness? Hasson known. The Entity, 1982. Fear in the entity comes from what can't be seen. But sometimes, what's most terrifying is what the camera shows when no one else saw it. In a static shot, the main character crosses her living room late at night. A single lamp glows in the background. As she passes, a shape darts along the far wall, thin, fast, unmistakably human in form. The angle of the shadow makes no sense. It moves against the direction of the light. There were no mirrors, no crew members in frame. The take was marked as clean. Stephen H. Burham, the film's cinematographer, acknowledged lighting issues in some scenes, but never this one. A former production assistant later claimed that when they watched this playback on set, no one spoke for a full minute. Even stranger, the same shadow or one eerily like it reappears in 2 later scenes. Always peripheral, always just ahead of the action. If the presence was invisible to the actors, who was it showing itself to? Hasson 2, The Keep, 1983. The Keep was always a troubled project, rewrites, cuts, and a fog of studio interference. But behind the visual chaos lies a moment that doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a warning. In a key scene, a German officer walks alone into a smoke-filled chamber inside the titular fortress. The atmosphere is dense, almost dreamlike. He casts a long shadow to the left, and then another joins it, from behind, silent, parallel, until it glides ahead of him and vanishes. Only one arc light was used to light the space. The floor was cleared. Production notes confirm no movement behind the camera. And yet, there it is, 2 shadows, 1 man. The second shadow moves with strange independence. At one point, it appears to pause, as if turning its head. And when the character stops walking, the shadow takes one more step. Some dismissed it as an illusion caused by layered fog. But even the VFX team, in a rare Q&A, admitted, "We don't know how that one got through." Can a shadow walk faster than the body it was never tied to? Hasson 3, The Innocents, 1961. The Innocents doesn't rely on jump scares. Its horror lies in the margins in soft whispers, drifting curtains, and mirror reflections that watch too long. In one candlelit scene, the governess crosses a nursery, her reflection trailing in a tall mirror. But when she exits the frame, a second shape lingers, thicker, male, facing inward, perfectly still. The film's director admitted that a crew member might have been caught by accident, but set maps show that side of the set was sealed off, no passage, no staging, and the figure doesn't behave like a passing person. It blinks. Fans have dissected the frame for decades. Some argue it was a trick of early lens glass. Others believe it was intentional misdirection, part of the film's layered hauntings. Yet the original 35mm reel shows no evidence of double exposure, and no other shot in the film contains such a shadow. Is it possible for a ghost to appear only to the camera? Hasson 4, Possession, 1981. There's a chaos to Possession, a fevered intensity that infects every movement. But in its most iconic scene, a flicker of stillness cuts through the storm. Inside a subway tunnel, Isabelle Adjani's character spirals into one of the most disturbing breakdowns ever captured on film. Her body twists, her voice unravels. Behind her, something doesn't move, a figure's shadow, firm on the wall, holding position for a second, then gone. It doesn't match her outline. It's angled wrong, shaped differently. It doesn't belong. The production cleared the station for filming. No background extras. Locked off lighting. Even the crew had backed away to let Ajani perform uninterrupted. So when the footage revealed the anomaly, no one could explain it. One crew member reportedly said the temperature dropped during the take just for a moment. The director brushed off the shadow as beautiful distortion, but others who reviewed the raw footage weren't convinced. It didn't behave like light. It didn't flicker or distort. It was just there. When the world breaks open, what steps through the crack? Hasson 5. The Shuttered Room, 1967. Tucked away in a forgotten corner of British horror, the Shuttered Room is rarely revisited, but one shot within it remains unshakable for those who notice. A woman walks alone down a narrow hallway of a creaking mill house. The camera follows, slow and deliberate. As she rounds a bend, a dark form glides across the wall opposite her. Not her shadow, it's too tall, too thin, and moving in the wrong direction. There was no other actor in the scene, no mirror, no crew member in the shot. Lighting records indicate a single bounce source. That hallway had no corners to hide behind, no set dressing that could mimic movement. And yet, something was there. The director waved it off as a lighting quirk. The cinematographer gave no comment, but one grip later said in an old interview, "We played back the take. No one said anything, just silence. We all saw it, but no one knew what to say." To this day, the moment remains in every version of the film. No cuts, no cover-up, no correction. How does a shadow enter a scene when there's nothing to cast it? Bonus, Peeping Tom, 1960. Peeping Tom is a film about what happens when the camera becomes a weapon. But in one frame, it might have caught something even the killer didn't intend. In a quiet scene, the main character stands alone in his dark room, illuminated only by the deep red of the developing lamp. The film strips hang like silent witnesses. As the shot holds, something begins to form in the reflection behind him, a figure, not moving, not reacting, just there. It doesn't resemble him. The proportions are wrong, the stance unfamiliar, and the reflection doesn't match any camera angle. Stranger still, the reflection lacks the expected distortion you'd find in curved glass or translucent plastic. There's no documentation of the shot being altered, no alternate takes. In interviews, editor Thelma Schoonmaker acknowledged the scene, saying only, "That frame always made me uneasy, and I don't know why." In remastered versions, the moment becomes clearer, but not more understandable. The figure appears to be looking at the actor, not watching the action, watching him, not part of the script, not part of the crew, not accounted for in any production notes. So who developed alongside him? In a dark room that should have held no one else. We expect shadows in horror films, monsters lurking just out of frame, darkness waiting beyond the door. But the shadows in these stories weren't scripted, they weren't plotted. No one on set saw them, and yet the camera did. These weren't lens flares or misplaced crew. They were shapes that appeared where light shouldn't fall, figures that moved with no one to move them, impressions that burned into the negative without permission, without explanation. Some filmmakers dismissed them, others ignored them, but none of them could erase what the frame captured. Not in editing, not in remasters. These moments stayed, still, quiet, watching. So we ask you, which shadow felt the most real? Which one didn't feel like an accident? And more importantly, do you think these were mistakes? Or something the film remembered that the people forgot? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're ready to keep staring into the dark with us, subscribe to Darkroom Cinema. Because some frames tell stories no script ever wrote.